everyone. Welcome back to this week's episode of The Classroom. I'm so happy to have you back with us. And to kick off the semester, we have the Student Success Coach office. We have Success Coaches Chris, Ryda, and Ashanti. Thank you guys so much for coming on.
No problem.
Yeah, let's just kick off first off by introducing you guys, and we're going to kind of run over a little bit of who the Success Coach office is, what they do, and then we're going to talk a little bit specifically about what success even means right now as a college student. I just recently graduated, and I know that I had a lot of different ideas of what success meant. Some of them were healthy, some of them were unhealthy, and I kind of want to dig into those conversations a little bit more, and who better to do it with than the Success Coaches. So thank you guys so much, and we'll start with you, Chris, if you want to share a little bit about yourself, and then we'll go down the line.
Cool. Yeah, my name's Chris Gebhardt. I started here as a success coach in September. My educational background is in psychology as my undergrad, and then I got my master's in school counseling.
Awesome.
So I spent some time in the private and public sector of education, primary and secondary, coached sports, football, basketball, and then I started getting into higher education as an advisor. I was at Rowan College, Brunson County, and Drexel.
Awesome.
And now I'm here.
That's great. That's super cool. My mom graduated from Drexel, and I went to RC, not RCBC, but RCGC for my first 2 years. So
Okay.
I'm very familiar with those areas.
Nice.
Awesome. And you, Ryda?
So, Ryda, I also go by Ryda. So, winding back, I was a Rutgers Camden alumni for my bachelor's. Got childhood studies with minors in psychology and gender studies. And I'm currently pursuing my master's in public administration here. So, Rutgers Camden. I have a lovely son. He's going to be 4 soon.
Wow, awesome.
And that's a little bit about that. I went to different universities, community colleges, specifically Hudson County and Mercer County Community College. I also dabbled in education as a director at a daycare and did some nonprofit work before coming here in April last year.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. And Ashanti?
Hi, my name is Ashanti Munns. I also started in September with Chris, started at the same time. My educational background, I went to Rowan for both my undergrad and my grad program. I got my BA in psychology with a minor in education, and then got my master's degree in higher education and student affairs. Prior to this, I did work at a nonprofit for a few years, working with adults with disabilities as a vocational evaluator. So just seeing helping them understand their skills and motivations and finding jobs within their community. While doing that, I also worked at Rowan as a success coach for a few years. So I'm very excited to be here at Rutgers Camden.
Awesome, thank you. And so just, before we jump into some of the questions, I want to do an overview of just what is a success coach for people who may not know? Could you tell me just a little bit about the office, why a success coach is so important to just the day-to-day, being a student at Rutgers Camden, if anyone wants to hop in.
Want to take it?
Oh,
Yeah.
Been here the longest.
So, the idea of a success coach, I didn't unfortunately have one when I was a student here, but I did have access to programs like EOF and TRIO. A success coach, especially in the Rutgers Camden environment, is being that middleman person. Think of it as an adapter. We connect you to different resources on campus and also really help you during that first year understand all the terms and the names of campus resources and communities to make sure you understand how to get those things. And we also talk about time management, so definitely skills that's going to help motivate you after your first year.
Gotcha, great.
Anything else I missed?
I think you pretty much covered it. I know in our office we take a very holistic view of students and success. So we do have students who come in looking for time management, but we also have students coming in looking for how to improve their daily routine, how to add in some finding some wellness resources, and just trying to improve upon themselves, not only as a student but just as a human.
Yeah, and I think one more tidbit to add there, we're not there just for the downfalls in life or whenever you fail a test or when you're struggling with something. We're here to motivate you to succeed, so whatever success might look for yourself. So we're not only looking for the low points, we're also there to make sure your high points get higher too.
That's a really important thing too, because I think especially when students are doing well. I know when I was doing well, I was like, oh, I don't need any help. Like I'm successful right now, right?
Yeah.
And what I didn't realize is that even though I was doing well for that moment, there were still, like maybe bad habits or habits that could have been better that ended up hurting longer, down the line. Like, I could have been studying more efficiently. Or I know, there was one semester where I didn't get any tutoring because I was like, oh, well, I don't need it. But then I wasn't in the habit of even knowing how to reach out for help, so that when I did need it in a later semester, I was just so used to doing everything myself. So that really kind of leads perfectly into kind of my first question, which is, and I mentioned a little bit earlier, in my experience as a student, is that there are so many different ideas of what success is and what success looks like as a collegiate student. Some people, for them, it's just 4.0 GPA. For some people, success is literally just passing a class. For other people, it's, like career success. They may have a job that they're doing well in, personal success. There's so many different ideas of what success is and should be. One thing I'm curious to hear from your perspective is, regardless of wherever people fall in terms of what they define success as, what do you think are some kind of fundamentals that all students should be keeping in mind as they continue to just find themselves and grow as students?
Yeah, I'll take it. And it's really about, I think, making progress, right?
Yeah.
Setting goals and making progress towards whatever those goals are. Like you were saying, success is so individualized, right? Like there's not this, you can talk about this broad understanding of what success is, but for each individual that is extremely different.
Yeah.
So as long as you're identifying a goal, working towards that goal, progressing towards that goal, I think you can, really consider that alone being a success, and as long as you're doing that, okay.
And also, I guess fundamentally being like true to yourself and like understanding yourself and your values to kind of really look for like what your goals are. So if you are someone like you highly value the amount of money that you're going to make at your career, or you highly value career growth in general, your goals, all goals depending on that, would have something to do with your overall values.
I really like both answers. It's a really great way of putting it. And when it comes to, even just knowing even how to like identify a goal, I think that's something that sometimes can be a little bit intimidating for students who sometimes they don't even know where to start. So when it comes to goal setting, and I imagine it's something that you guys work with like almost every day as success coaches, what would you say is a good process for someone who really sort of wants to clarify their goals and solidify them?
Conversation,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like whether that's with yourself, with your success coach, come see us.
Yes.
But it's just having that constant dialogue of trying to, because it's not easy, right? It's not really simple to identify a goal. So just having that constant communication with yourself and with others to really hone in on it and figure out how to go about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely utilizing the SMART goal method, which we do use in our sessions. So like taking the larger goal and breaking it down into smaller parts, understanding your why, when do you want to get this goal done. So just really focusing on the goal and all of its like metrics and parts of it.
Yeah, that's a great
Definitely
one.
understanding the obstacles that might face from the goal too. So let's say you want to ace this A&P class this semester, let's say for the nursing students. If they're not putting into an account that, okay, an obstacle would be possibly binging on Netflix shows or hanging out with friends or spending too much time in the campus center. If they're not accounting for the obstacles that might happen, they're not going to understand that this was a reason why you didn't get the grade you wanted to in A&P.
Yeah.
So being as realistic as possible for any goals that they might have.
That's a big one too, because I think sometimes when you're chasing that goal and then you run into obstacles and you run into difficulties, it's like, it's not always going to be fun.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that's the exact result of how, being ambitious and setting those goals. What would you say, for people who maybe are finding themselves in that place, or they may be even intimidated by a goal that, they want to set, but they're like, I don't know if I can do this or achieve this. What kind of encouragement or even just mindsets or strategies would you give to that student? Or anyone really, because that's something that challenge never goes away.
Definitely keeping, so knowing what your goal is, use that as a bigger picture.
Yeah.
I always believe, in a sense, for myself at least, instead of looking at the goal, think of the steps ahead before reaching that goal. So what action steps can you give yourself? If it's even so much as I need to make the bed in the morning, check. That empowerment that you have of
That's a
even
big one.
starting your day and getting the bed made, you're preparing yourself for the rest of the day of potentially reaching that goal at the end of the day and being grateful for that.
Right.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah. You can't
Um,
get to the top floor from the first step. You have to take the steps for it, and that's
Yes.
what goal setting is.
You have to get out of bed, which sometimes is hard enough, like
Right.
literally.
That alarm is your biggest enemy, but your best friend.
Yeah, no, exactly. And really, kind of sticking around that topic, I think, especially, in today's current generation I'm also part of, I just graduated, I think success looks a little bit different than it did 30, 40 years ago. I think more than ever, young people are trying to align their career with their personal identity and their personal values, and not just looking at, does this job pay well so that I'm financially secure? But especially once you graduate, like depending on the major you take, like there is a balance that you have to have there. And one of the things that I'm curious about is, what would you recommend for students who are trying to figure out, like, how do I make sure that what I'm chasing is realistic and that I'm being realistic about it, that it can actually fulfill both my financial real world needs, but also like my personal fulfillment?
I would tell students to definitely utilize their resources besides success coaching, because we're here to help you come up with the goal, come up with the steps. But if you're looking to know about the viability of your career, go to the career services here. Like
Yeah.
that's here for you. That's their job, is to kind of help you kind of learn what you are interested in and what career you're looking for, but also like what are those career outcomes, what are the financial outcomes, what do you have to go to grad school, would you have to potentially move to a different area to work that career. So definitely using the career center for learning more about the career, getting more in touch with yourself, knowing, like as I mentioned before, like knowing your why.
Yeah,
So definitely using resources that you can find.
it's a big one. That's a really big one.
Yeah, and just kind of like putting things in perspective, right? Like, what do you want your lifestyle to be like at, I just turned 32. At 32, where do you want to be?
Yeah.
Can my
Yeah.
passion and what, where I feel connected into the workforce, is that going to lead me to where I want to be at 30 with that kind of lifestyle? So it's trying to walk through all of those different things and find the balance and see is this path going to realistically take me to somewhere where I'm going to be able to support myself or others and find success in that way, or is it not? And if it's not, can I be okay with that? Be
Yeah.
okay with that?
And then another thing to think of too, having success coaches, or even if you don't have a success coach, going to Coach Betty as well for coaching appointments, you get to find that out during your first year of the resources we do have on campus.
Yeah.
So being able to say like, okay, I want to be a nurse, but I don't know what it means to be a nurse yet. We can
That's a big
help
one.
you, connect you to the resources, so then after your first year on campus, you have 3 other years hopefully that you're able to experience, put yourself in experiential learning, put yourself in different resources, connect yourself with the Nursing Student Association, and making sure that, is this really what you want to do when you're here, and have that opportunity to do it during the time you're in college.
Yeah, and how important would you say is trying to start that thought process early on?
It's important. I will say that when I was an undergrad major, undergrad student, I changed my major like 3 times.
Same here. Yep.
And it
It's
wasn't
a part of the process.
It's a part of the process, and it's okay to go through hurdles, and it's about making sure that you get up from those hurdles and
Yeah.
going forward and understanding that those mistakes, those growing pains are there to help you grow. They're not just the pain for yourself.
Right. And what you want at 18 or 20 will not necessarily be what you want to do at 25. I think it's never too late to be who you want to be, to do what you want to do.
Yeah.
So just not being afraid to start over or just pivot your goals if the route that you're on isn't the best for you.
And that's, I want to touch on that a little bit more, because it can be difficult to even decide that, or, find out that a route isn't for you. Especially, I know for me, I changed my major 3 times. Each of those times, for some reason, it felt like a failure, because it was like I set a goal, and I was like, and then I didn't achieve it. Even if I decided to go somewhere else,
Yeah.
still like reconciling with the fact that for whatever reason that wasn't a fit. that can be really challenging. So,
Right.
you know, just I would say, what kind of encouragement would you give to students as they're, you know, realizing that this fit isn't for me, and now I'm trying to transition over into something else? How do you kind of stay grounded?
I would definitely, I guess, start with congratulating them for like understanding themselves enough to know that the path I'm on isn't what I want to do, and not giving into like a sunken cost fallacy where
Yeah.
I've been in this major this long, I've worked here this long, I might as well just continue and kind of be miserable. So definitely seeing it as an opportunity rather than an additional hurdle.
Yeah, that's a big one. And that kind of leads into just overall, you know, having a growth mindset. Could you share a little bit about like what a growth mindset means to you, and why that's something that students should start weaving into their, you know, their academic and personal goals, you know, like now, and not learn that the hard way? Like, what does it mean to have a growth mindset?
Yeah, I mean, to me, if you're asking for the dictionary definition, I
No,
don't have
like,
it.
no, to you.
But to me,
Yeah, whatever it means to you.
it's just understanding that you can constantly improve,
Mm-hmm.
right? You can just go about your life. I'm not a great public speaker. Well, that doesn't mean I'm going to be terrible at it all the time. You
Yeah.
can grow in that way, and that connects to everything.
Mm-hmm.
And talking about failures, right? Experiencing failures, like it's just a part of what it is. And you know, when you don't accomplish something, more often than not, you've learned from that experience, and you're going to grow
Yeah.
from that.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as you just understand, and you're reminding yourself that I can get better, I can improve, I'm working on this, and life is about continuously trying to work on and improve yourself, then, you know, it'll be all right. You know, you're gonna get through some things and figure it out.
Yeah.
I think that's a great definition.
Yeah.
I think you nailed it.
No, you did.
Nailed it right there.
But definitely adding the word yet. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what I want to do yet.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of, just adding that one word allows for like so much more opportunity. And like Chris said, like not being afraid to fail. You can't do anything in life without failing. What's that Adventure Time quote? Sucking at something is the first step to being good at something.
Yeah.
And that's like
Sure.
just having that, I think that covers growth mindset in one
Mhm.
sentence, but just
Yeah.
being open to not being the best at something the first 100 times you do it. But no, the 101st time you do it, it's going to be great.
Yeah, no, that's a great way of putting it, especially because within that too, you know, it won't always be comfortable. It may never get comfortable. Like people, I tell people this all the time, they don't believe me. I actually don't like being on camera.
Mm.
Yet I have a radio show, I have all these other things. I actually don't like. It still makes me like, I still get nervous before every show. But like, you know, you start at something, it's difficult, and then you just start continually getting better at it, whatever it may be, whether it's your major, whether it's profession, you know, on the side. So I think that's a really great, you know, really great definition. Thank you for adding on. And really, I want to kind of do like flip side of that. In your perspective, you know, anything that comes to mind, what do you think are some unhealthy but common perceptions of what success means for students?
Everything they see on here.
Oh my God,
Yes.
yes.
Everything they see on here. Because this is, again, the technology we have today. It's so easy to go on social media and compare yourself to somebody else, or saying that, oh, at this age they're doing this and I'm not doing this yet. Or saying that, oh, I should be having X, Y, and Z because of all the false things that some people even put on social media.
Yeah.
I realized during my time in undergrad going into now as a person who I am now, I've spent less time on Instagram, Facebook, to the point that I barely even use it.
Yeah.
TikTok, I'll scroll
They did a
doom.
great job trapping us in TikTok.
Yeah,
yes.
They did
That
a
has a
great
hold
job.
on me.
Yes. But just comparison and comparing yourself to your classmates, your friends, your colleagues, and thinking that it's like, oh, I need to be like them or similar to them,
Yeah.
and not trying to grow in your own path. And that's one of the things that I feel like a lot of students tend to struggle with, as well as putting the blame on themselves. I had a student recently talking about, I don't feel like I can go to tutoring because if I do tutoring, I feel dumb.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not holding, they have to work on their inner thoughts of themselves and put some more respect for who they are, because they're here, they're in college, they're having an opportunity,
Yeah.
and this is an amazing opportunity for themselves, and there's a lot of resources here for them. So letting them have a moment to breathe so then they can move forward, because they're holding their breath and they're not moving forward.
Mm.
Right.
Yeah.
And also the concept of like to add on to like someone else's successes aren't yours, but you also don't have to necessarily follow in someone else's path just because like, oh, they've got me this far. Like your parents or everyone's parents, family support, I need outside support. They're amazing, they're great, and they're like probably like your biggest cheerleaders, but their path doesn't have to be your path.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's a big struggle, especially hashtag first gen students.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
But I'm a first gen student myself. But even first gen students, they face Rutgers Camden's known for first gen students too.
Yeah.
And they face a lot of, I need to do this in support of my family, or I need to do this in honor of my family. And they kind of lose themselves during their time during undergrad and realize they're no longer doing something for themselves, but they're doing it for the benefit of their family. And after undergrad, they need to understand that this is all their hard work. They're the ones going to class. They're the ones doing the time in here. Your family is supporting you, but you're putting that work in yourself.
Yeah.
So giving them an understanding, not just first-gen students, but even students that might not have that family support, and they're trying to get seen by their family. Letting them know that, like, hey, like, you can do this yourself, and this is your name on that diploma with the backing of your family, but this is your name.
Yeah, that's a massive one, because I think in some ways it also it and I, as someone who's like very family oriented myself, and I experienced some of the same things when I was a student, it's that, you know, I see my name and I see my path, and I would struggle to separate that from all the paths that came before me and around me, and that my path would influence, you know, and I really relate to that, honestly. And I think one of the things that helped me, and it's something I'm still currently working on, but I think will help other students, is taking, you know, for example, that's a great example, just having like your name on your diploma, like that's your name, it's no one else's name.
Exactly.
And within that, how do you feel that, you know, anyone can jump in here, how do you feel that self-advocacy plays a role in that, you know, kind of embracing of yourself, and really kind of, you know, just if this is what you want, going for it, and not involving anyone else in the process in terms of like, this is exactly what I want. Yeah, could you just share, you know, any kind of thoughts on that, self-advocacy?
It's a huge thing, and it starts honestly with college. In college, you're not asking your parents to come for parent-teacher conferences. You're not telling your parents like, oh, my teacher wants to talk, my professor wants to speak with you. It all starts in the student learning how to speak up for themselves in college, but also trying to bring those self-advocacy they have in college and take it home to their family and friends and community, and letting them know that they can speak up even around their family.
Yeah.
And that's a balance that not a lot of students are going to face unless they're going home for the winter break or spring break, because they're realizing they're changing so much during this time that they're not understanding that it's going to hit them when they go back home and have to talk to their family.
Yeah.
So it's like constantly reminding them that this is an all-around thing. College is not just academics. It's, yes, you're a student, but you're also a family member. You're also a friend. You're also you. So making sure that, like, as success coaches, we're letting them know it's okay to speak up for all aspects of who you are, and we're here to support you in that success.
Yeah, and honestly, you know, I'd be curious to see, you know, what you guys think specifically of having all those things in mind, right? I know I can think of multiple people, and I used to be one of them, where I'd be so focused on, I'm here to get a degree, I'm here to get a grade, all those things, cool, it's great, take care of myself, all that, but also I have work to do, right? And I would just focus like, okay, I have an assignment tomorrow, you know, I can't journal right now, I can't take the time for myself because I don't have time for that, right? What would you say, you know, to people who feel that way? Because I think that, you know, it can be tricky taking that time for yourself, but I have personally found that it has really helped. But what strategies would you recommend for people who maybe struggle to see the value and why the perspective that you just shared is important to take time and think about?
I think there's a saying that the way you live your days is the way you live your life. So one day, if you're a student who's like so focused, like I gotta get this done, one day you're not going to be a student, and then you're just going to kind of just be a person, and you may kind of maybe navigate or pivot that mindset towards your work. I have to get this done. But at the end of the day, you have like yourself, so you have to make sure to like take care of yourself and like take breaks. So I guess for any like tips or recommendations for students, I would just like, you know, remind yourself like who you're doing it for. Like, yeah, you're getting a degree to maybe work a job, but like, why are you doing it? And if, you know, just kind of remembering to take breaks, check in with yourself, enjoy life.
Yeah, right? That's a big one. Actually, you know what? Speaking of, this is a good time to talk about your next upcoming event. It's a good time to enjoy life. Can you tell me a little bit about the dance party?
Oh boy, yeah. I mean, we're playing. We got Just Dance.
Mm-hmm.
For
We
sure.
got
Yeah.
what's that thing called? A Switch.
Yes,
Yeah.
the Nintendo Switch.
Nintendo Switch.
In the Raptor Roost, right?
Raptor
Tomorrow.
Roost, 1:30 tomorrow.
1:30. Be there.
Mm-hmm.
Be there. Don't expect to see me dancing.
You gotta enjoy life. Come on.
I will enjoy it through others.
That, you know what? That's me too. I enjoy it from the corner when I'm at parties.
Yeah.
It's
yeah,
valid.
that's- you know, that's what that is. Yeah. But yeah. So you gotta take those breathers.
Yeah.
You know, and enjoy that. But at the same time, sometimes you gotta get down and dirty. You gotta hustle. You gotta, blow some people off on occasion. Not all the time. Sometimes
Right.
you gotta do it. And if you're a person that functions well in that style, self-advocacy, you know how you function best.
Yeah.
And if you're high level, working through stuff, somebody like almost too much to somebody else, but you function well in that way,
Mm-hmm.
it might just be the best way for you.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, I want to touch on that a little bit because that is one, specifically about, not blowing people off necessarily, but, starting to create those boundaries because they become different when you really start setting up your goals for success. And that can be a heavy emotional toll for people who, maybe they had a very large friend group and they hung out every single week and all the time, it took up so much of their time, or it could be a family member, it could be anyone, but then you start having these goals and you start seeing what it takes to work towards those goals, and suddenly you have less time for people. You have less time for maybe things that you wanted to do. You can still do them, but maybe it's not as frequently. For someone who maybe is struggling kind of creating those boundaries with people, how would you say to kind of get started in that area?
A couple students that I want to say this summer, I told them that you are your main character in your own story.
Yeah.
And by being around people, by taking your time away from your mission of your story, you're putting yourself in a longer time frame of getting to where you need to be.
Yeah.
So by telling them like, hey, like you got this, you can do this, you're the main character. So it's your decision when you're gonna put your foot down. It's your decision when you're gonna say that you had enough and you're over it, and create those boundaries to say that I need this for me now. Because in reality, Chris isn't gonna help me with my goals.
Yeah.
Ashanti's not gonna help me with my goals. No offense, guys. But and you're not gonna, I have to do it for myself, and it starts with saying that, you know what, whatever happened, I had enough of it, and I wanna move forward myself with my goals, because at times you're not gonna have anyone with you.
Yeah.
And at times, those are the times that you're really gonna have to put that motivation, and when that motivation's not there, determination to move forward and reaching those goals.
Right. Definitely finding like a middle ground. You may not be able to hang out with your friends every day, but you can see them. Be like, you guys can schedule a time once a week.
Yeah.
Something. So you don't feel like I have to neglect my friends and family for me to reach this goal. More like I can kind of modify my schedule to reach this goal, but because I still value friendship and value family, I will make time for you.
Yeah.
It's not all the time.
Yeah, because it's very, very precious. But you know what? I think scheduling is a big part of it too, which is something I know when I was a student, I did not schedule anything that was not my classes.
Mm-hmm.
But very quickly, especially if you get an internship, if you get a job, suddenly you wake up and you barely have any time. So yeah, knowing how to manage that is really important. And kind of wrapping everything that, we talked about, how do you think that this applies, just for example, people, they might be listening to this and then they have class in 20 minutes, right? And then they're just back into it. They might be listening to this right now and be like, oh yeah, success, I'm gonna do all these things. And then before, 6 o'clock they get home and they're like, I'm exhausted, I wanna watch Netflix for the rest of the day. And I still have work to do. So how can people take the things that we've talked about a little bit and start putting them into practice, both in their academics and personally, so that it becomes, if this is something that people are hearing this, if you guys are hearing this and some of the things we talked about, you're like, I recognize that in myself, I want to work on that more. How do you get there? How do you stay present?
Come to Success Coaching.
Yes, yes, that was a layup question.
Yes. Make an appointment.
Yep.
If you need
We're all
one, we'll
navigating.
give you the information.
We're in Armitage 231.
Yeah.
Just
Yes.
pop by. We will be there. We can help you out. We can help. If you're looking for a schedule, we can get you started. If you're just looking for someone just to talk your daily life through and figure out how you're gonna make time for all of it, we're here for it.
Mhm.
Yeah. That's it. They can start at the Success Coach office and then just go right down
Yeah.
the list and go to class. Then you go, hit Laura up, just hit everybody up in the
Yeah,
office. So many
it's-
different resources.
Just knock on the door. It's
Yeah.
like trick or treat in that office.
Yep.
Just knock on every door. There's something waiting for you.
Right.
Yep.
And the treat is success.
Yes, that's it. That's it. Is there any other updates? Any other events that you guys want to let people know about? Anything coming up? in
We
particular?
have a bunch.
Awesome.
So we do have the Just Dance event tomorrow. Be there, be square.
Yep.
On Monday, we are working with the Chancellor's office just to get more information about the experiential learning fund to learn how you could embrace your life and maybe go abroad for a summer and how to get money for that.
Yeah.
So
Then-
I'm just gonna push it down.
Yeah, I got you. I see why. So on Monday the 12th, we have the I F'd Up series. It's talking about learning from failures.
Mm.
We're going to have an alumni come in through Zoom and talk about just learning from the failures they've went through.
Yeah.
We're also doing a tabling on Tuesday the 13th for Black History Month. And then
Yeah, you just come visit
Yeah.
us. Yeah.
basically,
Awesome.
We're still going. We have a very busy February.
yeah, there's
That's
a
great.
lot more events.
On the 21st, which is a Wednesday, we are working with the Wellness Center for an event called Coloring and Coping with Conflict. It's just about conflict resolution, healthy conflict resolution, how to set healthy boundaries, but
Yeah.
also if you're in a tiff with a friend, how to deal with it professionally or how to deal with it well. But if you're in like an issue with like a professor or a job, it's basically how to do conflict. That's during free period down here in the ABC. And then that night we have a Zoom seminar about protecting yourself from digital scams from 5:30 to 6:30.
And then Tuesday the 27th, with the Learning Center, we're going to be doing an academic Olympics.
Yes.
So we're going to have a little fun in challenges from 5 to 7 p.m. inside the class office. And then to end the month out on the 29th, we're going to do another mind, body, and sweat of yoga, but we're going to do it virtually.
Right.
Awesome.
So
Awesome.
make it accessible to everyone. We said a lot of events, but they all are on our Instagram at RUC_student success coach.
I think it's just Success Coach,
Oh,
right?
Yeah,
Right.
Success Coach
Yeah,
Office.
'cause I was tagging you guys and I was like, make sure, make sure you get it right. Yeah, so RUC_Success Coach Office, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And then we're also, so we have it on Engage, but the Rutgers Camden app has the Engage access on there. So they can
Yes.
just go on there, type up. Some of us might be I know a couple of us are putting the workshop flyers on the news feed, so check out the news feed as well.
Right. Yeah. We're all over. If you follow us on Instagram, we sometimes do giveaways, but you have to be there to win. So yeah,
Yeah, awesome. You guys have a really busy February. That's impressive.
we do.
Yes.
That's awesome.
But
So
we
if you
still
guys-
have time for y'all, for
Yeah.
students.
Yeah.
That's right. So if you guys want to get connected with them, there's like 10 opportunities to this month. So definitely check out Engage, the Rutgers app. And yeah, thank you guys so much for coming on. Really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for listening. We're going to run through a couple of song selections from the Success Coach office, and then I'm going to close out the show with a couple of other announcements and topics that I'm going to talk about. But we're going to start off with Party by Beyonce, selected by Ashanti. Then we're going to go Under My Thumb by the Rolling Stones, selected by Chris. And then Monaco by Bad Bunny, selected by Ryda. So enjoy the tracks. Thank you guys so much again, and let's listen to some music.
Nice.
Sounds good.
All right.